Hey everybody, I'm Shane Bacon, Marty Jertson with me. We are part of the Ping Proving Grounds podcast, but more importantly today we're going to look into our golf bags and see where we're playing. A lot of new gear for Ping, so I have almost entirely new gear in the bag. What about you?
Same. I think like pretty fresh.
Anything dated in this bag?
Well, I'm trying to think. I think my driver 3-wood thing we're going to talk about.
It's the most exciting part
and
of the bag.
my 5-wood. Those are probably my oldest clubs in the bag. I've had for maybe 9 months or.
Well, let's start with what you get the most excited about, and that is driver. Probably the most exciting driver that I've had in a long time. I'm max 10K. I'm assuming you're max 10K as well.
10K.
Been playing, by the way, I've been playing this Tour 2.0 shaft from Ping.
65 or 75?
I think this is 75. I've been
Nice.
playing it,
Okay.
I think since the last iteration of the driver, and
Yep.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yep.
I'm 9 degree with the driver. I think you've got a little more loft on yours.
Yeah, I'm the 10.5, but I'm in the big minus.
Which
so
means?
It turns it down 1.5 degrees. So it's like net 9.
Net 9. Why
Net
don't you
9.
just,
What?
now let me ask you a question. Why don't you just play 9?
So if you put the 10.5 in the big minus, you're gonna open the face angle just slightly, right? So, and I have a lot of things going on in my driver to not hit it left.
Okay.
That's my kind of thing. I fight in my technique. So I like the 10.5 in the big minus, opens the face a little bit,
Interesting.
and I like how that sits down.
Let
behind
me
the
ask
ball.
you a question. How did you figure that out? You know, I mean, versus somebody that's going to get fit for a driver, how do you figure out to tweak that?
Yeah, I think it's one of the benefits of having our trajectory and tuning sleeve. You can use it to tweak the loft, but as you're tweaking the loft and putting the shaft in at a different angle, it's changing the touch point on the ground. So it's moving the touch point more forward. Then when the gravity acts on the head, it
Okay.
rocks the face a little bit more open. And it also kind of points the face angle at address slightly more open because the club has loft on it. You're de-lofting it, it opens the face fractionally as well. Every little half a degree matters, Shane.
Your bag is incredible.
Exactly.
All right, let's show the funniest, coolest club in your bag.
All right, the funnest one, my driver with the 10K, I'm playing close to 46 inches.
Right.
It's like 45 and 7/8, which is fun because the inertia is really high, I'm trying it a little bit longer so I can get a little more club head
Okay.
speed. So far it's going pretty straight.
All right, so
for me.
most people are expected a 3-wood out of this head cover.
Exactly.
Not a 3-wood.
Exactly. So let's start with the genesis of how this happened.
Okay.
We were running
Wait,
some
put
stats.
the back in the bag. You know it's getting serious.
Oh yeah. So we were running some stats, and I was wondering. I was just thinking about my game, and I'm like, in Arizona golf, how many times do I hit 3-wood off the tee? Because I was kind of struggling with 3-wood off the tee, versus how many times do I hit it off the ground?
Okay.
So I started keeping stats on this, and I got like 10 or 20 rounds in Arizona golf, and I was like, man, I've only hit this thing off the ground like twice. And so then we started mining everyone's data.
Okay.
Okay, and I think we've talked about this on a few episodes where if you hit it shorter, you hit your 3-wood off the ground a lot.
For sure.
If you hit it 300 yards, on an average
It flips, right?
course,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
flips, and you hit it 90% of the time off the tee. Well, in Arizona golf, I was hitting it 95% of the time off the tee. So I was like, I'm gonna build this fun little thing, which is, let me get more inertia in my 3-wood. So I got a 12 degree G430 Max CG shifter in the fade, and this thing is only 42 3/4 inches long. And I got the same shaft you have in your driver there.
The 2.0
So
75?
Yeah, Tour 2.0 75 black. Shane, this thing is the funnest thing.
So you hit it off the ground too when you need to.
It's very functional off the ground.
Okay.
I made a few eagles off the ground, but
I think it's sweet.
I could build this to go as long as I want. I need it to. I mean, you're kind of constrained by what you can hit with your driver, but I build it to go about 270, and a lot of times I tee it really low, and if I'm nervous, in my tendency with the 3-wood, even though we have all these fitting options, is kind of get underneath it, some bad technique things, and hit it to the left. I find so many fairways with this thing, it's incredible.
That's kind of your fairway finder. That's the fairway finder.
Totally
quote.
my fairway finder.
I'm a little more traditional next up.
What
I
do
went
you
with
got?
just a 3-wood. I didn't like tweak it down. This is G430, by the way, LST.
Yes.
Love this thing. Beautiful, beautiful in terms of sitting at address. And I like a little bit more low profile with my 3-wood.
Yeah.
So I love this thing. The Max is great, but again, to me, I found it as much as I'm hitting it off the ground, I wanted to go LST versus the Max.
Yeah, LST, so LST, tie body, it's really built like a driver, but supercharged. Tie body, tungsten sole plate, tons of mass in the sole plate, CG really, really low. And that's a good mix of good off the ground and off the tee.
Our next clubs, a lot of the clubs in our bag, especially irons and wedges, are similar, but this is where we're different.
Yep.
You're 5-wood next, is that right?
5-wood. And I'm kind of like some of the tour players where I built my 5-wood short. So our standard is 42.5, half-inch shorter, but I play mine at like 41 7/8. And that shorter helps me keep it a little bit lower, take a little bit distance off. And again, I have the Tour 2.0 black, 75.
What's that thing fly?
This thing flies like 255, but I have a lot of versatility. Like I can hit a soft spinny cut with it if I want to. I can turn it if I want to. What do you got in that spot?
I've been a crossover guy. I had the 7-wood in for a bit, and I love the 7-wood, but I've been playing crossover since you guys introduced it.
Yeah.
What is that, 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah.
I can't get away from it. When I start to spray it off the tee, which I'm like to do, I will lean on the crossover heavily. So I go 3-iron crossover. I think it flies kind of like a traditional 2-iron for me. It's in that 240, 250 range for me. And again, it's like to your 12-degree driver, this is kind of my fairway finder when I need it. And I like it. I can take stuff off it if I want to. I can hit it like kind of stingy if I need to sting it, and I can hit the bullet cut too. So big crossover fan, and I have the 2-iron as well, but I typically lean on the 3-iron.
Yeah, I was looking at your hosel setting. So you got it in the stock. We got the crosshatch there to denote that it's a lefty hosel. Stock setting. I think one of the cool things that our fitters have loved though is that you can adjust that loft on it, but also go to some settings that flatten it if somebody needs to.
So we are in the same iron, but before we get to those irons, I'm in a little bit of a different situation with my 4-iron. I-230, just again, a little bit more forgiving. I can hit a little higher in the air. Big fan of this club. This was when I got my new set of pings last year in May. I think this was the club that I was most in love with out of that bag, and it still remains one of my favorites. So I-230, one of the last remaining clubs in my bag, considering the new stuff.
So I'm playing the Blueprint S 4-iron, and one thing I do, Shane, a little bit different. We might have done this when I helped you with that 4-iron, with your 4-iron. I think we did, is went a little bit longer. Right, so I'm playing mine. When I start transitioning my lengths, starting at the 4, 5, 6, I go 3/4 of an inch increments instead of traditionally your irons would be a ½ inch longer per club. So I get just a little extra speed boost, a little extra dynamic loft boost, and that's really helped me. I actually also play a different shaft in my 4-iron.
Really?
So I'm playing the KBS Tour X in my 4-iron, and then I transition to X100s. I think your 4-iron can kind of be treated as like that. It's like your transition club. It can be a little different model. You can maybe go a little lighter shaft that has a little bit more kick in it. So I think for players of our caliber, our speed range, it's okay to do something a little bit different. You know, go a little longer length, a little lighter shaft, different model, transition it.
You mentioned Blueprint S. That's what I'm playing as well. I'm gonna throw this out there. Likely to be the most popular irons of 2024, and for good reason. Seeing a lot of players put these in the bag quickly, fall in love with them quickly. I was the same way. I got them in the mail before a golf trip. I didn't hit them one time. Took them to the golf trip, loved them, made some birdies with them, hit some close. Beautiful, beautiful iron.
Shane, I'm kind of with you. I think this is going to be the player's iron of 2024 and beyond. I mean, I think what you've seen on the PGA Tour, so many of our staffers, tons of non-staffers putting them in play, which is an amazing sign, especially in the iron category. We've learned from some and brought in some of our great characteristics of our previous blade style irons. But the big thing on these irons, Shane, and why they feel, one of the reasons why they feel so good is the CG is really low. So it feels like you're always like making good contact with the golf ball. So I love that about them. I'm playing mine with X100s, kind of a color code between black and red. I play right in between black and red. Pretty traditional lofts. Like I play mine pretty traditional lofts so they can blend right into my wedges.
I'm X100 as well. Love them. It's funny with X100. I feel like if you're X100, you just play
you
them
can be,
It's hard to kick it out. And transitioning from irons to the new wedges. I mean, we were talking about the new wedges before we started shooting. We're in love.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I go to a pitching wedge, and then I go.
You're Blueprint with your pitching wedge.
I'm Blueprint with my pitching wedge.
And I'm S159 with my pitching wedge.
Yeah, and what's fun, Shane, is when I put my information into our Find My Grind app or WebFit Wedge, it spits out the exact recommendation. So I get spit out a 60T, which I play, then a 56 bent to 55 to perfect my gapping, so my pitching wedge goes, or my 56 bent to 55 goes 115. Then I go to my 50 degree, right at 50,
Okay.
and that goes exactly 130, and then my pitching wedge at like 146. So now the thing I have done with my wedges that some of our tour players do is I play a very different grind in my sand wedge than my lob wedge. So I play our wide sole.
Yep.
So the W grind, super wide. If you look at the camber, which is how rounded it is from front to back, it's got a lot more camber to it. So I feel like I can be like way more aggressive on my full shots, and this is awesome for long bunker shots. Anytime you have that like awkwardly long, like 35, 40 yarder, I've found that having this wide sole is super helpful in those scenarios. But then my 60, I have my 60 bent to 61 is the T grind, and it's just stock. I didn't have to put any extra grind on there. So it's thin. It's got a lot of angle, but the angle is all built up close to the lead edge. Plenty of relief on the trailing edge, the heel and the toe, because I move the handle around a lot. I'll hit a lot of chip shots with the handle up. I'll hit high shots with the handle down. I'll open the face a lot. Of maximal importance to me is being able to hit like a high spinny shot off a tight grass or tight lie.
And that's the T grind is going to do that.
The T grind is absolutely perfect. Now, one other thing, Shane, I do that's a little interesting on my lob wedge is I play it a 1/2 inch short. So a lot of people grab this and they're like, this thing feels tiny. So the shorter you go, it's like everything you do is gripping down on it. Yeah, and my swing weight is lighter too. Not for everybody, but the swing weight on my lob wedge is like D1, and it helps reduce the ball velocity coming off the face. So if you're a golfer that struggles with maybe hitting those chip shots and like the ball speed's always a little bit too high, something to kind of play around with. Let's go into yours.
It's very, very interesting. I'm pretty standard across the board. I mean, I'm S grind across the board, 46, 50, 56, 60. It's kind of been the way I played my wedges for the last few years. And I've been in love with these wedges. They've been so awesome.
I think the S grind is perfect for you because you're kind of the meat and potatoes. When we've played golf, you have kind of a meat and potato short game technique, like plenty of variety, but you don't do anything in one extreme. You move the handle around, you move the handle position around a little bit, you travel a lot, you play a lot of different variety of courses. So the S grind is kind of the meat and potatoes.
Like reliable to lean on.
Yeah, very reliable to lean on.
And then putters. Now you talk about different in the bag.
Yeah,
this is as far off as we're going to be. Maybe it's the 5-wood in the crossover, but I mean this is wild. I mean my PLD is so great. I was so pumped to find the Tine. I mean, I just think it's perfect for me. A little bit of a smaller head. Got it stamped with the kids and the dog's initials. Don't forget the dog, of course. And yeah, I mean, how can you not love the look of this putter?
Yeah, that Tine is sweet. I think it was fun for us to work on that with Cameron Champ because we originally launched the Tine, and it was too big for him. And like, hey, let's make it smaller. That's what the PLD program is all about, like
customization. Like
yeah,
make
really,
it fit for you.
Yes, make it. And so taking that smaller version has been a great option for folks in blades that are looking to go to like a mid mallet. Now I'm a long putter guy, you know. I played around with
by the way, when did you switch to long putter?
I've been a long putter for like 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so like a couple years after college. It wasn't necessarily that I was having the heebie-jeebies. I just liked it. It was fun. I like the physics of it in theory.
Did you anchor previously?
I
and
did.
Then you had to.
Yeah, the first year was a little tough on that. But a few things I've adjusted there. I've changed my setup a lot. And compared to when I was anchoring, my putter is now about 1.5 inches shorter.
Okay.
So I'm a little more bent over, use a claw grip, and I have the Oslo, PLD Oslo, and it has a full shaft offset, which I really like. So if you look at the trail edge of the shaft and line it up with the face, it's like a perfect intersection. And it has just a slight amount of toe hang because even with a long putter stroke, I still rotate the face a little bit. So it's very important. That's like the principle in putter fitting to help with your start line is to match your face rotation to your arc. So even with a long putter, you still can have a little bit of arc, and it's very important to still go through that fitting process. So this thing though is about 490 grams. It doesn't look big, Ben, but this thing is solid. And long single alignment line. I use a line on the ball. So I kind of try to, my eye catches the back, catches the front of the line, marries it up there, and I love the way this thing feels with the milling on the face.
I mean, that thing will push you over 50 pounds when you're traveling. I mean, you have to pay extra for the bag.
I have a little luggage scale in my garage, and I always have to double check.
I'm not surprised by that, by the way. I mean, similar in terms of a lot of the stuff we have in the bag, but there's obviously some differentiators in there with the you know, you have the drive versus the 3-wood, and then of course the 5-wood and the crossover, and the wedges are a little bit different. The putter is drastically different, but I've seen you make a lot of 10-footers, so obviously it's working for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing. That's what's in the bag.